Hey, welcome everybody. This is the Virgo Astro Round Table. We're going to look at the archetype of Virgo and what all it represents as a whole, and then how it relates to all the other signs of the zodiac that are sitting at that round table with it. And then we'll look more specifically at 2026 since that's our current year. And we'll look at that solar cycle that is just around the corner. So the first thing I like to tune into is the element of a sign, and the element of Virgo is Earth. Earth is about everything that's physical, tangible, the mundane realm, and that generally includes matters of health, money, work, and all things that are matter. If it can materialize, it is earthy. So health is like a representation of us in the 3D world. Our money, that which we allows us to purchase, that which we find value, things that we value, we want to accumulate and own and have. And work is the physical processes that we go to in order to circulate our health and to, work for value and all of that that matters. So the next part of a sign that we look at is the modality, which is mutable in the case of Virgo. So Virgo is mutable Earth, and there is a combination of modality and element for every sign of the zodiac, and each combination is unique. For mutable signs, so they are all about the end of a season. And in this case, for Virgo, it is the end of summer that's coming up. All mutable things are about things that are changing. They're variable, adaptive, they're flexible, they're flowing, they're adaptive in some way, they're bending, there's a changeability, a versatility to a mutable energy. And a key word that associates with that mutable concept is learning. At the end of one sign or season, the energies are learning how to adapt into a new modality, a new season, a new juncture on that core cross of four. And all of these mutable signs, you could think of having a foot in two worlds in some way, the one before and the one it's going to, or many different respects that make them two-bodied. There's two worlds. And in the case of Virgo here, we're dealing with those two being really shown with the subject or object, also the person or the tool or the consciousness and the vessel. So we have the subjective realm and the objective realm, or the subject, the person, and the object, the thing, as in a person and tool, or then even consciousness and vessel. That the consciousness is then using the vessel or working through the vessel the way a person works through a tool, the way a subject works through a particular object. So something about that is akin to our nature of service in Virgo. As far as the glyph and symbol go, we have the esoteric maiden M with the legs crossed, with a small Vesica Pisces, and I'm probably saying that wrong, that second word. And then also the idea of it being weak. So we've got this M, which I just thought was kind of cute to remind us of a maiden. It is the also the picture of the constellation, and the image that it brings forth is a maiden with wheat, a shaft of wheat. And so we can see the M representing that in this case, although that's not really the case for Scorpio so much, and it has an M looking thing too. So we'll focus elsewhere there. But the I've also thought that this the Vesica Piscis is a very much a yonic symbol, and so there's something about the Virgin and the Maiden in that regard that feels feminine and virginal. And then we have, the way that they are crossed down here at the end is kind of like, the M having its legs crossed, like a good lady would. We could also think about it holding a shaft of wheat, the M holding a shaft of wheat. So all of those are drawn forth and evoked through that glyph. The maiden with the wheat is also just generally symbolic at the end of summer of a lot of that harvest time where all of the yield that was abundant is starting to, it's still coming in, but not as abundantly. And so we're starting processes such as canning and fermenting, and storing and preserving. And so it's that element of perfecting that which we have had come forward as fruit on the vine. in this stage of a process where we're putting it in its organized place and systemized. Um, we have the angelic Vestal Virgin is also a quality of this. Sometimes you can see here this has a maiden with the angel wings. So there again, there's this heavenly, angelic, perfect, ideal quality represented the Virgin and Vestal archetype. And then we also have the association of this as the working girl, the servant, the peasant, the common person, the everyday girl, all of that. And so it draws forth the connotations of Virgo, which is about service, and the class of our environment on a daily routine basis. And those that work under us or those that work with us under someone else, all of those connotations of the commoner and those processes. Planets, when we're playing in Virgo land, there are a few. So the first thing is the ruler, and the ruler of the sun is Mercury. It just wins. Mercury is a mutable sign, quite friendly. It also owns Gemini, but here in Virgo, it's quite more practical. But all of that movement, navigation, and mobility is put into practice here as the moving parts in a system and having everything plinko into place and systemize. So Mercury is good at the detail and the trivium of task and perfecting issues in this realm. Detriment is Jupiter. Jupiter rules Pisces, the opposite sign, so it's in detriment here in Virgo. And that can represent how when things are diffused or widespread and the scope is too big and loose and all of these Jupiterian things, the small, fine details that can matter in the efficiency getting, kinked up and that could matter in this practical Virgo land, that Jupiter idealism and big picture can get a little soupy for everything being in its proper place in this Virgo way on the mundane. It's harder to hold things to a perfected standard when there's more of an openness of Jupiter there. And exalted. Mercury is said to also be exalted um, in Virgo, and there's something about that that is it's kind of redundant to me, but it shows how the finesse of Mercury working so well in this sign is regarded. I sometimes will exalt Mercury in Aquarius, and but Mercury is going to classically be exalted here, and so it's just the double prominence of how well that movement ability and that versatile nature can be put into a practice here. In Gemini, it's great at going back and forth and getting all the information, and then we're putting it together and kind of incubating something material. And so there is an exaltation of Mercury at this point. The planet that falls then would be who is exalted across the table in Pisces, which is Venus. And Venus is all about things that are easy, things that are relatable, things that are, fun and beautiful and all of that. And here in Virgo land, it can be a little bit of like a Cinderella disappointment for Venus. Venus is also going to have an attitude towards Virgo things in this land of having everything more virginal and maiden and well put together and tidy and orderly and all of these qualities perfected. Venus is going to want to let things slide and make it a little bit easier, and it can be a little indulgent, or it can, these it can cut corners. It's not exactly the same, but if you notice, the detriment and fall in Virgo are the two, quote unquote, beneficent planets. The good guys in the planets of Jupiter and Venus, and they have those similar like laissez-faire kind of qualities. And Virgo is, in itself a place where we're perfecting things. So it's about well put together. It's about the details. And that's why Mercury can sew and needle and all of that very well there. Um, so that's a little bit about that Venusian fall. Um, and then again, the idea of Virgo being the everyday and the chores, Venus is not something that Venus, in the sense of love, really takes to, although it can make um, some of those tasks easier to slide by, maybe are more pleasant, but again, how perfected are they? But it's all give and take, and I love in that respect. The esoteric ruler is the moon. And so we think about the moon mundane ruling Cancer. Well, when we step up to the level of the soul and we have a planet working from that level, it's about the esoteric, and that is Virgo. And so it takes the qualities of the moon, which are subjective, me, personal, emotional self, our infant self, all of that inner self, and it is putting that in somewhere that is about those virginal qualities of tightening up and getting it together. And it is about the personality becoming more of a vessel of service to, in a sense, birth a Christ consciousness. So it takes a planet that's usually quite subjective and it makes it more practical. It puts our subjective nature and our go-to habits, rhythms, into a mode that is naturally about efficiency and perfecting of the self so that there's a constant processing and refinement on those fine levels of detail happening on an inner level. So it's perfecting a personality as a vessel to birth Christ consciousness. And if you notice the moon being this feminine planet and this the mother sign, this is a connotation of, the lore of the Virgin Mother that gives birth to the Christ consciousness. So it's a step in that story archetypally seen through the planets and stars. And then at the hierarchical level, which is to take the nature of the journey from that being the soul evolution and what the soul and the psyche is learning that is transcendent to the mundane personality realm, and goes a stage higher to the nature and the evolution of the planet in a divine cosmic order that is more about collective large scale processes than it is any individual unit or group's growth, so to speak. And in this big scope idea, um, Jupiter is the hierarchical ruler of Virgo. And this is quite an ironic twist here because this is, I believe, the only case, if I remember correct, that there's a planet that is a ruler up here in a sense, somewhere that it is in a detriment or fall elsewhere. And with this, Jupiter functioning in this loosey-goosey way that does not work for the perfection that we can achieve in the mundane world through the practical matter and materializations of Virgo, um, in a broad sense of thinking about the zodiac wheel as a processing plant, a cycle that's happening. Jupiter is a very fertile energy for coagulative growth, things like kind of raindropping and clumping together and becoming bigger and synthesizing, and growing and expanding in this way. And so it can take the Virgonian ideals and the practical places that matter for efficiency's sake and for a purposeful, mindful, refined respect. It can take those and make them more long range inducing, like holding together and truer further out, longer range. And it also brings to the table the ideal that perfection is at its core and root, only an ideal. It is an ideal. When we think about something being perfect, well, you can't get something perfect down on the mundane level. Um, perfect all the time. And the idea of having that perfection, that's why Virgo energy can come, it's got some of these shadows of criticism and how it can, nothing's ever good enough and everything can be, can find constructive criticism. Jupiter reminds us of the love and the grace and the forgiveness that everything falls short of perfection. But at the same paradoxical time, there is an open-ended, already inherent perfection to everything. It's an imperfect perfection. But it's more in a generalized sense of well-being and things fitting together in a way that is organic and breathable and not so held tight to the details. When we're holding tight to the details, Jupiter is going to be a bit of a mess. But Jupiter can really help to bring out the best in the ideals of Virgo when we think about it from this hierarchical mode, which is a little bit of a stretch from our typical mundane personality concerns. But anyway, that's a taste of how the different planets that have special affinity in the land of Virgo could be thought about a little bit further. Virgo is the sixth sign, so it reflects matters of the sixth house. And so the sixth house is about Virgo things, work, health, routine, daily environment, coworkers, and servants. So it is that efficiency place where we are working, we are doing our task, we are doing what we came to do, putting it into practice in service for others. So it's the work that we do. It's also like think about working out and circulating energy and eating well so that all systems are circulating together for our health, and that's something that we have to do on a routine matter. It's not like you do it once and you're done. It's like uh, brushing your teeth and taking out the trash and like all the things that are routine. And then it's our daily environment. It's where we circulate our work, our business, and the people that are there with us, our coworkers, or the people there that are like I think about like the little birds and fish that scrape alligators and sharks' teeth, the servants of life, those that work with us, for us, etc. So, in this respect, we have certain archetypes that fill a Virgo theme of like those roles, one being a vet. You can think about the vet is serving the small animals that are also in service to us. And so you can kind of see a little bit of that paradox and service there. And now it's got that doctoral sense. There's a lot of doctor and nurse in this service sector of the axis of the 6 to 12, the Pisces to Virgo axis. Um, but you get, this vet connotation, and small animals is often domestic animals or servants, the cats that catch your mice in theory, and the dogs that keep things out. That element of service, those animals are vet related. The nutritionist is someone that's helping us to perfect the things that we daily routinely intake for our health, so that we can work properly and all that. So again, you can see a taste of some of the core jobs and whatnot. You also think about things like personal assistants, um, secretarial things. I think about de-hoarding, just serving people in a way that's processing the material world, but all forms of assisting and support, organization, files sorting, and things that use a lot of the mind. Very Virgo. Processing, so in a general sense, processing for optimizing practical efficiency through fine-tuned calibrations of organized systemization. So I'm using lots of Virgo keywords throughout this presentation, so hopefully you'll pick a few up, like processing, practical efficiency, fine-tune, organize. They're all Virgo words that all carry that flavor. So hopefully you can see how that could all apply to the realm of the vet, the realm of the secretary, the realm of the data manager, the realm of the nutritionist. Um, this realm is also that which one seeks to improve and put together for serving through best practice. And this is a place where it's on this bottom half of the wheel, which is subjectively about us, but right before the others, we're getting more so into the others. So we're serving others, but it's about how we're a fit instrument in Virgo land. and how we can perfect and improve ourselves as an instrument of service to do our job, the job that we do well, to the best fine-tuned, the details and like fine-tuned instrument, like very well put together, the ability. So that's the Virgo dance. Some more extra keyword soup while we're finishing to really soak in this concept of Virgo. We've got the idea of perfection, of course. Can't leave Virgo without it. Purity, the virgin, the virginal sense of things. Maintenance, well put together, fine-tuned, well-tuned, like a car, like an instrument. All of the maintenance of life and the gym and chopping wood and fetching water. Being critical, finding those, things that we could do better and like the details that are missing or lacking or need adjusting. Precision, it's really small, fine tuning, fine tune, fine, all of that, the qualities there of just tweaking it for improvement and then very subtle things, the details, the work and service that we're doing and having done, our health organs that are all doing their service for our body, all the systems, the uh, nervous system, the blood system, the air system, all the systems. Efficiency, things all working, doing their job, working in tandem, flowing around, circulating. Improvement, how can it do it better, faster, longer? How can we improve it? How can we make it, you know, perfect? Implementation and utilization. This is the idea of like how one thing will use something else, like the blood, or I'm sorry, the heart will pump the blood and the lungs will circulate the air. And like there's everything is a tool and everything is using a tool. So like we're using the lung and the lung is using the air, we're using the heart's using all of these. It's also the idea of a tool, whether it's us using like a shovel or a computer or the idea of implementing and utilizing objects to do tasks as an extension, the techniques, that land of Mercury, the technology and techniques being implemented and utilized for work, service, improvements, etc. The idea of assisting and supporting us being that or having that done. Routine, things that are done on an all the time, everyday fashion. These are not surprises or foreign ventures or shocking things. It's routine and the regiment, holding it together, keeping it in a structured format. So Virgo is all about that. Regularly assessing performance in order to fix problems and enhance processes for accurate completion. Tidy little summary of what Virgo is all about. You might like to think about their orientation in time and rate it just for fun. It's just me doing that. I gave a first priority in this case for Virgo for the future. I think that Virgo likes to plan ahead to the future with well-suited adaptations. They like to think about what could go wrong, what could be needed, adjust, have it ready, be ready before it happens. So Virgo's looking at the future, I think. I said that second focus would be in the present. And then it does that by maintaining orderly control in the present to ensure best processing. This is monitoring the environment, making sure everything is working well and has what it needs to work and is processing effectively. And then I thought the Virgo is then looking at the past third. So it's concerned about what's ahead the most, and then like, what's right in front of it, and then what's, behind it in the sense of reviewing the past work to spot flaws or errors in need of adjustment. So, if it was singing, when was that note sharp? If it was dancing, when was that move too slow? The things that were errors and flaws, the coding didn't work well in a certain spot, and how to adjust, adapt. It's mutable, it's changeable. All right, now we get to talk about this archetype of Virgo that we've learned so much about and how it's going to play and relate to all the other characters that are part of this zodiac whole that it is a character. The opposite complement is Pisces. And I always say a complement because the other side opposite of one completes its axis. And so it's not like a sense of war so much as a sense of marriage. These opposites complement each other, and you'll see how they tie together maybe. So Virgo, we have mutable earth, and Pisces, mutable water. So look at these words in juxtaposition as opposites when we have practical Virgo and imaginative for Pisces, analytical for Virgo, and then very sensitive for Pisces, critical for Virgo, compassionate for Pisces, and binding for Virgo. Of tightening up, getting it together. And Pisces is the sense of loosening it up, becoming more open. And so they work and they flow together. Um, you have to have both. And so on the Virgo end, the emphasis is to adjust logically in order to improve effectiveness and fine-tune precision. So it's where to focus for dialing in logically to get things more fine-tuned but precise. Whereas Pisces, the impetus is to adjust emotionally in order to soothe sorrow and brighten ideals. It's loosening up, it's providing a sense of hope in places of sorrow and despair, especially. It also dreams big and brightens ideals. So it's bright and it's all of this. And so there's it's the practical and the emotional, and how they work together on an axis of service. Service is what binds them together. In Virgo, we have the idea of being a fit instrument for service, having it all together to do our job effectively. And then on Pisces, we have the compassionate understanding for service to help in the moment, or in any case, openly without all of the rules and regulations that Virgo can be about. But there's a sense that you have to have things together so that you're the most prepared when there's a wild card situation. Just as you have to really have your compassion and openness and the imaginative abstract side impressioned from Pisces in order to really see what's behind the veil, what's behind the picture, more to the big picture that matters in a way that's bigger than us, to just be the little instrument of Virgo. So they work together. They are both mutable, which means they change and adapt, and they're both yin and passive, as water and earth are. So that's that first relationship. Second one would be the neighbors, 5, 6, 7. Five's Leo, six is Virgo, seven is Libra. And those neighbors don't have anything in common, but we see them all the time, so they're familiar and that they are a process that just kind of goes sequentially as we flow around a cycle in the wheel. So we see them in our cycles more than having conversations across around from different points on the table. So Leo, fixed fire, Virgo, mutable earth, Libra, cardinal air. So you notice that none of them have the same modality, none of them are the same element, nothing in common. But look at how the sequence is. So Leo, which is right here at the beginning, remembering before it even back in Cancer, and says that from what's nourished by tenacious roots and nurtured by sensitively protective boundaries, the Cancerian things before, Leo has been doing the inner content, having this done. The inner content of who and what one is blooms into full shine. So we have this big burst of me, 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 this is who I am expression, radiantly expressing its brilliance with gusto to enliven and field an audience. So that just happened. Well, and then in Virgo, from all of the expressions generated prior, all of that Leoness, a process of examining the fine details to improve performance through better organization for greater efficiency takes place to maintain an optimized routine of order. So it looks back at what was fun that we were doing just for, creative enjoyment in Leo. And Virgo has us again, tighten up, how we need to make things better, how we can put it to practice, how we can take something that's fun and make money or help others. All of that is what Virgo refines from Leo. Then Virgo then goes toward Libra, where from the fine-tuned package of precise cohesion organized prior with Virgo, all the practical details are softened in favor of cooperative pleasures, socially interfacing with others to attract interesting ideas for further harmonization. So eventually, it's going to lean toward Libra, which softens some of the rigidity and criticisms of Virgo because we are more about wanting to partner and play nice and have fun in a pleasant, pleasurable partner way in Libra, rather than the over under of relationships that is a part of Virgo. And we'll see that again in Scorpio, although Virgo emphasizes the under, the subordinate servant end of that unequality. And then Libra is going towards a beautiful, aesthetically pleasant harmony. That is more likely to bend or compromise than a Virgo might be about some of the things they found very important to be rigid about. So that's a little bit of how this area will process. It's important to note that there's nothing in common with the neighbors, again, other than the proximity. So it's just because they're next to each other that they know one another. The next relationships on the zodiac wheel are some of the more awkward ones. Um, they're called quincunxes or inconjuncts. And for Virgo, these are happening with the signs Aries and Aquarius. So if you go all the way across the table, you get to Pisces. So not all the way across, but next door, you've got Aries and you've got Aquarius. And so it's a little bit of an awkward 150-degree angle. However, we have both of those joined together and both of them pointing at Virgo. You can create a yod, which is also known as the finger of God, and it has a more stable way that it expresses itself. And I want to see if I can highlight both. So Virgo would be the release point if we had this little trio together. And we've been talking about Virgo a lot, so this should be pretty common. It's a mutable earth sign. It's involved with practical routines for and with others and planned improvements for optimal practice. So it's putting things all together. It's planned. It's all of these things. It finds its form of taking in or getting energized from perfecting systems for maintaining seamless efficiency. So it's really good at really likes putting things together to really do their job well. That's what it likes. Well, it can be across the table from a foundational sextile platform that has both of these. But think about just Aries in connection. Aries cardinal fire, so nothing the same. It's about impulsive initiatives, just starting things, just doing it because I feel like doing it. Independent desires, just about me, it's what I want. So here we say there's no sense of planning or organization or having anything together. And we're not thinking about others or how we're going to work with other components. It's just selfishly about us. And it's instinctual action. It's not intellectual or practical. Uh, it's just bam out the gate. So Aries and Virgo have got quite a few things, but Aries is so much more raw and Virgo is so much more refined. Aries is taking in as activating raw instincts for visceral satisfaction. So just doing what we feel like that makes us feel alive. Can you see how that would scare the pants about on Virgo? It would just like scare it out. Virgo in this virginal sense of just being well put together and tidy and refined and restrained and controlled and poised and all of these prim and proper connotations, um, doesn't see exactly the same way as Aries with this just raw instinctual gusto. Um, Also, How does Virgo get along with Aquarius? Fixed air. Um, Aquarius is all about innovating advancements. There's things that are like new and unusual that are like bam, blasting things forward. Virgo likes things that are familiar, that are routine, that are keeping things processing, the way that they're supposed to. We're not trying to go somewhere. We're trying to keep it well maintained. Aquarius is about spontaneous liberation. Bam, we're free. Virgo is trying to like keep it all in the system. We don't want any of it to spill out. Collective teamwork. It's all about the group. It's a group project. It's a whole thing. Virgo's kind of about me. I'm the vessel. I'm the instrument. I'm the thing that's helping someone else. I'm a part of the system. And I'm going to do my job well. All the other parts of the system they're a little bit of a wild card unless I'm going to control them. So this idea of the collective teamwork, the big picture, the whole team, that's Aquarius. Virgo's about the organs, the instruments, the parts, the particulars. Um, Aquarius sees taking in as experimental elevations for radical progress. So again, with Aquarius, we get this idea of experimentation, things like really changing, just very all of a sudden radical, being really way different and progress. Um, Virgo likes efficiency, but with Virgo, we have this idea of kind of refining and holding things together. It's about binding things together, working in a system. Whereas Aquarius is like trying to break the system, free itself from it, jump out of it, go somewhere new, try something new. So all of Virgo's routine things are a little bit, foreign to the exotic nature of Aquarius in this case. However, if you have the energy of Aries and Aquarius holding hands in a sextile, so you have everything about Aries and everything about Aquarius as a foundation, as a baseline in an energy signature, well, then you've got a strong sense of self and independence and can do and just initiate and start and get it going. And you've got a very brilliant mind with innovative ideas that's focused on a community, collective vision, aim, endeavor, wish, hope. Well, if you have that foundation, then Virgo as the point on an arrow, the point at Virgo is a release point where all of those routines and that perfectionism is really put together in a way that is energized and assertive and true and radical, not afraid to shake things up, but in a friendly, good-natured way. There's a way of shaking things up and being radical or unusual to Virgo's practices, having a method to its madness and a madness to its method, but also having a good spirited nature about the cause, the altruism, the community collective aim, and um, uh, that supports what the Virgo is working on and for and towards, and is allowing Virgo to kind of take that control that it needs in order to do its perfectly effective job. So it can become um, kind of a support to have that community collective aim and strong sense of self in the Virgo modality of putting things together and implementing effectively. So it can work well when you have a foundation there. When you just have one side or the other, you can see a little bit more of the seesaw where two energies don't exactly speak the same. So that's the third one in these cases that brings a little more stability to it. Some easy allies, bring it back down to something easy. It would be Cancer and Scorpio. These are both two doors down from Virgo, and they are friendly water signs. Water and earth share that they are both yin in nature. Water will fill a cup and sit there. Earth is a rock that'll sit on the table and it's not going to jump off. So they have that yin nature to them. And so Virgo is mutable earth, and so it's practical routines and systems of organization to promote efficient flow and planned utilization of work environment. And it's favorable towards smooth precision for effective navigation of day-to-day life. So it's all the things that it takes to keep our systems well lubed and easily, smoothly going along. Well, Cancer is a home base of emotional comfort and familiarity for nurturing the self with care, and it's favorable towards safe containers of supportive influences while shielding from disruptive impressions. So, Cancer helps make things feel cozy, comfy, at home, safe, all of those things in an emotional way, which makes it really easy for Virgo to do its job. It can really get to work easy when Cancer's taking care of it. Over here, we have Scorpio also as fixed water, which is the finesse with investments and the business of interpersonal relationships, helping to play well with whatever motive is active for empowerment, favorable towards dealing with other influences. So, Virgo and Scorpio make one of the little power couples that I see in a sextile, the other being Virgo and Capricorn, but and I'm sure Virgo and actually, Scorpio likes to do business with everybody, but the nature of this little sextile is that Scorpio really brings the finesse with dealing with others. So when it comes to Virgo working with or for others or under others, it's very good at um, making things agreeable, making the exchange what both parties find mutually beneficial. It helps to make the work worthwhile in a sense. Um, and so everything in Virgo that's trying to be effective, it really brings in others and other invested parties that are going to be good resources for Virgo to use or to be used by. And so it's got that kind of quality of circulating Virgo's business among others. And so they work well. A little more challenging would be the square relationships of Taurus and Scorpio. Um, I'm sorry. Yeah. Um, I don't want to fix that live. Let's fix that live. Because the squares to Virgo are not Taurus and Scorpio. They are Gemini and Sagittarius, which I got right down there on the actual info, but I forgot to change it up there. So Gemini and Sagittarius are the squares to Virgo, bing bing. And so all of them have in common that they're mutable. They love things that are changing. They can adapt. They can go both ways in lots of different regards. They're all about learning. They're all doing it from the perspective of the element they are. So we have mutable earth, mutable air, mutable fire. Virgo, mutable earth, ever-changing adjustments to details and organization based on potential improvements, noted for fine-tuning practical efficiency with controlled variable. Hopefully, you are starting to pick up some of the key words that are Virgo in that, because we've got all across the board ever-changing adjustments. That's an idea of mutable in and of itself, is that we're constantly changing, adjusting. And in this case, with Virgo, it's the details and the organizations that we're adjusting to improve something practical, to make it better in a material, mundane way with things we can control, the pieces, the parts that we can sequence or organize to make something better or change on a physical, earthy level. In Gemini, yeah, we want to have some ever-changing stuff, but it's going to be ideas and routes of navigation here. It's going to be all sorts of ideas all over the place, all over opinions, different ways to get there, different ideas about how to complete a process, how to get from point A to point B. And we're switching in accord with a vast variety of diverse information circulated and communications for greater knowledge and flexibility. So, I mean, it is the information hub, like a train station of thoughts of ideas. So we're getting lots of information that's constantly updating where we could go, what paths are available, what things could be possible, so that we're moving all over the place intellectually, socially, etc. It's just about kind of moving for the sake of moving and seeing how much movement can be generated, um, and how much variety there is to explore in Gemini's airline. Like how vast can this network we can fly across become? Whereas Virgo, it's practical, it's earthy, it's material. Sagittarius is that mutable fire. And so it is ever changing as well, but it's desire. I want this, I want that. And where I want to go, I want to achieve this, I want to do that. Sparked broadly in every realm that's discovered and shooting off on quests towards typically out of range experiences from faraway places of foreign themes. So with Sagittarius, we can think about it as like shooting our arrow at different desires. I want to go there. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to make this happen. With everything that excites or sparks the spirit, the desire nature, that the excitement, often towards things that are far off, like planning ahead, planning in advance, far, not like planning like something that's happening all the time, like Virgo plans, but there's a long range, far off planning quality of shooting your arrow off into the range, somewhere you don't go all the time, on a foreign trip, on a vacation, on a something that is not the local environment that Sagittarius brings to the table. So we've got the sense of desires that are changing in the fire nature of Sagittarius. We've got the ideas and social networking that is all changing up in Gemini, and then it's the practical, physical, material concerns in Virgo. Best relationships for an earth sign are the other earth signs, and its earth elemental buddies would be Taurus and Capricorn, and earth all over in general is practical, the nuts and bolts, is stable, is grounded, dependable, it's reserved, conservative, solid, cool and dry. Just keep it cool and dry. Uh, what are the facts? Just the facts for earth. Um, and so we have cardinal Earth, fixed Earth, mutable Earth, and there is a way that they kind of triangulate with our cardinal energy. We're starting processes, and then fixed energies we're holding processes, and then mutable energies we're adjusting and releasing and changing processes to then start new processes. But there is a triangulation of this. And there's also just the general sense of thinking about each as its own unit. And you can see a little bit of both in this, perhaps. So with Capricorn, it's cardinal. We have practical action. All the cardinal stuff's about action, and everything Earth is about practical. So practical action is the executive steps necessary to build or achieve something that are taken to get it accomplished, and whatever challenges are encountered are met until surmounted. So Capricorn is like step by step, climbing the mountain, to do whatever we need to do, to get the degree, to get the job, to build the car. And then every time something breaks or we don't get it or we got to go somewhere else or we got to do something different, we keep overcoming and overcoming and overcoming. That's Capricorn starting to say, that's also, I think about the slow rate that like crystals grow. They keep advancing slowly. Um, Earth is a fixed Earth. It is practical security. It is the holding. It is the accumulating. It is the saturation, in a sense, of earthiness. That which one finds of value is developed and accumulated, to be held in reserve as a savings account to ensure dependable self-sustainability. So we amass and we take on more of the stuff, the physical things that matter to us that we find value with. We like them. They hold a sensual value. They have practical value, all of that so that we have enough, so that we're sustainable and dependable. All of that is that holding um, of Taurus. And then Virgo, the mutable earth, is practical learning. It's about changing it up and adjusting how our approach is to what we're doing down here in the earthy realm with Virgo. So as the odds and ends to a process or a product are explored, Adjustments are made to improve the efficiency of how something works for its optimized utilization. So that's where we see, does this canning process work? Do we have a step that's off? So we're taking the things that we do, the processes that we serve through at work or our daily routine, and we're seeing what they're made of and then how that can be improved so that how everything is systematically happening together is happening better, faster, stronger, all of that. You can think about this, and I also use like this metaphor of Capricorn's like building the house, and then Taurus is like enjoying the house, and then Virgo is kind of like selling the house or using the house for a purpose. So all of it's got that earthy practical material side to it, and so these three signs get together archetypally quite well. All right, we are ready to take a look at this particular year now. So if it's not 2026 anymore, you could shut this down unless you're just interested in this for reflection. But this particular year, Virgo season looks to start at August 22nd and about 10:19 p.m. We can see that Virgo is down here at 000, fresh into Virgo. And Sun at the start of Virgo is where it's on the Regalis star at the Virgo cusp. And I probably talked about Regalis a little bit last time with Leo because it's thought to be the crown of the lion at 29 degrees. But a lot of things have said lately that it has, not so lately, just in general, it's out there, that Regalis progressed into Virgo. And the idea of that archetype of that crown moving to Virgo is symbolic of how the crown has moved from the ego, masculine, king archetype to the feminine, everyday person, comment like that archetype. Um, so this day, particularly August 21st, 22nd, Sun on Leo. I wonder what we shall see under the spotlight of leaders and prominent figures and people high up in regard in some way. So the sun is shining there that day. And from that point, it is square Uranus, and Mercury is, conjoining it. It's close enough to be considered conjunct. And it's also getting up in that square a little bit too. So it's also just a day that in a time period over the next few days in this first part of the cycle, Sun square Uranus is largely known for radical, unusual, rebellious things. Something that is shocking the status quo, maybe about ourselves to others or from others to ourselves. Just big displays of something that is spontaneous, shocking, rebellious, not the status quo, outside of the ordinary, etc., is what's highlighted with Sun and Uranus kind of charged up like that. We see that Venus and Mars are still in their square, 7 to 15 degrees between Cancer and Libra. And Venus is opposite Saturn now, pretty close to being exact around this time. And Mars is still square Neptune and now Saturn as well. So there's some tension and spiciness in our desire, nature, and how we interact with others. And this can be in sexual relationships, romantic type relationships, just in others in general. So, like a lot of activity to the degree that it is romantic, there can be like a little bit of the chase involved, or just like the romance of back and forth, who's chasing who, a little bit of that, or like, getting your pigtails pulled. Do I like it? Do I not like it? There's a little bit of the friction in the square, but it's spicy anytime Venus and Mars are together. So it's been a spicy time for poking at things when it comes to social engagements with others. Um, and at this time with Venus opposite Saturn, we could see that the spicy game could either have run its course in the sense of being done or calling it off or tying it up, finishing it up in some way. Um, Or it could be that we are taking it to the next level. We're taking on some kind of new form of commitment. We are solidifying a relationship path. Those are the typically options with Venus talking to Saturn. Mars talking to Saturn and Neptune. There could be a lot of, I almost feel like there's some romantic fantasy here. Mars and Neptune brings a lot of that to the table, a lot of steamy romance, but also maybe something that's not available in some way. It's out of reach. It's ephemeral. It's, going away, or we can't have it for some reason. And then Saturn also brings in the I can't have it for some reason, or the idea of a block and a frustration, but also a lot of strong passion, like we're willing to work hard. So this is an interesting, spicy signature between Venus and Mars, and then Mars and Saturn and Neptune, and then Saturn and Venus. So there's a lot triangulating there. Um, that looks dynamic when it comes to relationships, y'all. Not seeing things super clearly, but also having maybe a sense of things blocked or out of reach for one reason or another, whether it's ours or someone else's. And then just that dynamic tension that can be good or bad, spicy or frustrating with others, with things finishing up or graduating to a next point would be another way to say it. Jupiter opposite to Pluto and trine Neptune, winding down as a trine to Saturn begins. So we have Jupiter is opposite Pluto and trine Neptune, which is winding down as it's starting to more strongly trine Saturn. All right, so there's an idea of um, big changes, deep changes, broad changes. Okay, this is Jupiter on Pluto is something profound, something deep, something transformational, maybe related to other people, very psychologically excavating, maybe involved to how we do business or how we invest in others or what our deepest desires are. And Jupiter's bringing in the sense of somehow getting that, having that completed, having that growing, seeing that in a big way, getting a large dose of uh a philosophical view to our deep desires. And Jupiter is really supporting, it's been in support of our dreams and really like idealism and like dreaming big has been in tune with Neptune, dreaming big and like imaginative and romantic. Saturn is starting to bring in the practicality of nuts and bolts. How are we solidifying things and structuring things? Um, and so there's a way that joyful vision and broad far range with Jupiter and Leo is meeting the personal steps and the independent action in a steadfast way through Saturn. So bringing a lot of the expansive qualities and contracting qualities together in a trine is very supportive for building things and advancement that's going to matter. It's coming after this wake of dreaminess. And it's also coming after some big changes, maybe in where we are trying to grow or what we are trying to broaden our horizons to be with our investments. So that is a sense in that. So that's our main weather that first week that the season of Virgo is beginning. For week two, things have moseyed along a little bit so that we had a Mercury Sun conjunction. It came on across and we had a Cazimi I thought was worthwhile to note on the 27th. So August 27th is that Cazimi, and they are both square Uranus there. So this is really a time accentuating. Again, there's a little bit of a time period here from that beginning to this first week that those themes of just radical surprises are in the midst. The sun is square Uranus that whole time, basically, and it is just a surprise factor of things that are rebellious. It could be disruptions, things not working the way they're supposed to, things about yourself, things about the way that you express yourself or how you show up that has disruptions or eccentricities. I mean, it's a live wire electric effect to your sense of self, And it's got to do with your communication and messages and movement and navigation because Mercury is in the mix the whole time. The Cazimi on the 27th does portend that the 27th might be a particularly radical day with announcements of information that are wild, exciting, shocking, unconventional, all of that, or messages that are sudden, spontaneous, unexpected, all of those qualities of radical and suddenness that Uranus infuses are happening to a very exalted sense of a messenger archetype, a message, an idea, a thought, an articulation, a movement, something that is in that realm of articulation and information that has a royal importance on that Kazemi date when it is in the heart of the sun. And all of that happening square to Uranus just gives it kind of that flair of an exotic wild card in the mix. Venus finishing square to Mars. So we've got 12 to 21. It's like almost a 10-degree square now. They're starting to cool down on that friction between those planets having an aspect. And Venus is also finishing up on that opposition to Saturn. So those themes that we just went over, the spicy frictions, the completions or graduations, seriously weighing others' relationships. Is this fun? Is this not? Is this what I desire? Or is this what's pissing me off? All of those types of things are kind of finishing in that with those two lines. While Mars is now heavy in its square to Saturn. That's exact. So with Mars in a square to Saturn, it's not surprising to see things not working, not going forward. Something that is getting a block, getting a limitation, getting your patience. You have to wait, or something that's heavier. It takes a longer or harder work to accomplish. It also, though, gives us a sense of drive. It can make us mad and like dag nabbit, willing to relentlessly drive with a strong, forceful ego. It's having these strong, forceful egos. And it's almost like that's part of the friction in the square is this strong, forceful ego blocks things up and encounters that strong, forceful obstacle opposition. So it's not uncommon for this signature to show up in that way. And since it is Mars on the home front, it could be things between ourself and family, between ourself and mother-like figures, between our sense of self and like maybe whatever our group identification is in some way that's our family in another regard. Our outer desires and just like what we want to do and who we want to become, and then our instinctual inner desires for safety and security. There's a fundamental tension between those two during that period. Jupiter, though, is nice and trine to Saturn, and so that is bringing in a lot of the harmony between the expansions and contractions of those two planets. That is long range building something worthwhile in a fun, fiery department, even though we might be challenging and frustrating our sense of safety and familiarity, maybe pushing us into things that are a little less so or having us feeling blocked and frustrated inside with things that are more immediate due to that Mars square. Into week 3, we have our sun functioning at a quincunx to Saturn, which is just a little bit of an awkwardness between who we are and how we want to shine and how we're getting things done and making moves, and then the element that is our self and our long range goals and what matters to us just independently. And so that's a little bit of a mix between ourself and our sense of shine and the duty, maybe, not being seen or not feeling like our identity and our work is adding up in some way, just an uncomfortable kind of something in that realm, and a discongruence, an incongruency between how we want to be seen and show up, and maybe through the work that we do, maybe through, the part that we play, and then what our real ambition is, or what our long-term working for when it comes to our sense of self and identity and who we are. So those things have a funkiness. As the square to Uranus is concluding, So we are this radicalness and this, exciting whatever, is in some way maybe really making us tune in to what's out of sorts between ourself and what we're structuring, by having all of these radical new things happening to us or shown to us from those Uranian influences. Sun is also starting to sextile Mars, and so is Mercury. So we are getting ourself involved with our action, our yang energies of expression and movement and action, super supportive. So that which we're doing in the self-care type of stuff, that is all helping. While there can be this rigidity in our identity moving forward, or the slowness to that department of those personal goals, um, frustrating our uh, sense of desires in an emotional, safe, familiar way again. There's something about our routines and our work that is routinely, at least supported by taking action at that time. Venus is finishing, not fishing, in Libra and starting to square Pluto, which it will do more acutely when it goes into Scorpio. So it's our last moments of Venus in our home sign, which is a general flavor of ease and pleasantness and desire to initiate and be initiated by others in relationships and partnerships and keep things familiar and fair and all of those things. We're starting to have a little bit of a clash in Scorpio, or a clash with Pluto right before she goes into Scorpio, which is portending a little bit of some spicy trouble, some control battles between maybe some of the people we've been playing nice with, and then a focus that's about to get deeper involved with how we want to be more deeply involved in relationships, and how that will matter when it comes to collective aims that are broader than ourselves. Mars square Saturn, still frustrated. Jupiter, that should say trine, Jupiter trine Saturn, still glows. So those two things are still happening at this time. Um, so, oop. There we go. Um, Mars square Saturn, it's still a sense of a lot of willpower, a lot of drive, a lot of forceful ambition, but also the chances of things feeling like it's a lot of hard work to do, but things feeling blocked or limited or not moving as fast as we like, are some of the vibes there. Although Jupiter trine Saturn is a broader sense of growth and building and structure and working supportively. It's just like it's like the building is frustrating our personal sense of like moving things forward and seeing it happening, getting done right now, and emotional, and maybe also challenging a sense of familiarity and family, those vibes. So taste of that. Into our next week, week four. Sun is still sextile Mars pretty exact. So that is like a strong boost of confidence for ourself in doing stuff. So even though we might, have something blocking us, we're still feeling pretty charged up and confident in ourselves and who we are. It's just, something a little bit constipated there with Saturn in that square. But the sun is giving us a strong sense of self and like desire being aligned. It's just, something a little block frustrated with that square. Mercury is now dipping itself into Libra now too. So the thought focus is now about others and our relationships and navigating the communications of interpersonal dealings more so. And that is an energy that's trine Uranus, so that is also getting us involved with it's also trine Pluto. So I mean that's circulating all of this, like getting us involved with groups and shared conversations and shared information. And it's really like this this is a time information circulation, information awakening, information excavation, all of these themes that are plugging all the air signs together with a lot of their favorable planetary placements. that just really say like a lot of circulation, information, and movement that can be involved with groups and a diverse community of new people sharing ideas in a complementary fashion. Very big. Um, Neptune is also opposite Neptune. So at this stage, with all that circulation happening, there is also an idea that we're getting maybe some information that is a weird, abstract, spiritual, nebulous, woo-woo, wah-wah kind of way. It's kind of out there. It could be from dreams. It could be something that's psychic, be something that's abstract and imaginative, irrational. It just doesn't make sense. Could also mean that the communication is a little bit clear or muddied or uh, transparent, translucent, evasive, hard to tune in. But there could be that quality that the communication is just electric. It's electric and it's deep and it's profound and it's beautiful, but it's also got a transient quality in the opposition of Neptune coming in with it. Now we see Venus is in her quincunx time period with Neptune, and she is full on square to Pluto. And so there is this idea of our sense of others and what we find valuable and pleasant and all this in personal way um, could be feeling at odds a little bit with the sense of impersonal selflessness that's also impression through, some base part of our identity right now in Aries. So this part of us that's very selfless and loose and transcendental um, is teetering with a way that's kind of opposite with like us maybe really valuing and desiring to get involved with someone else for some reason, to really dive in specifically, exclusively, selectively with an other, some other party, some collaborator, some business person, sex or business, tends to, a deeper communion with an other for some reason is attractive with Venus and Scorpio. And the square to Pluto makes this really spicy. There could be jealousy, there could be power struggles or different dynamics there, or shadowy components or control things. So there's that in the mix, and then this little bit of wibbly wobbly between that Venus sense of our personal desires and wanting to be selfless and impersonal with that Neptune, or also that sense of um, yeah, or that sense of investing in others and investing in self. Those are calling into question too, along with the investments we're making in others, while it's a specific partner or a group collaborative type of mindset. So a lot going on with Venus. And then Mars is finishing the square to Saturn. So by this time in Virgo season, Mars is about done with that frustration. It's like it's been grinding, 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 forcing, 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 battling, battling, battling. Um, and Mars is about done, but still in with that sense of frustration and also due diligence. There's a lot of uh persistence I want to point out with Mars square Saturn. Important thing about the positive qualities because it's happening a hot minute. And then a week 5, our sun is starting to trine Uranus because it's getting closer and closer to Libra. So those radical things are like adjustments, and the fine tuning can be more open to some things outside the box. New information is kind of working well with the system. Sun is starting to oppose Neptune, which can be good for loosening things up. And it's also kind of like letting things go and surrendering type of quality coming. It's like we've been putting things together and now we're ready for new information to help keep it tidy while we kind of let go. Mercury opposite Saturn sextile to Jupiter. Some of our thoughts and some of the thing and the communications are reaching ahead of being done or getting published or being finished, or also maybe some harder conversations or more executive administrative duties or things that have been plans put in place for conversations. Um, but there's a sense of them being good for our growth, good for the future, good for moving forward. So that graduating sense of like our words and our thoughts having a serious impact or being applied in a serious realm in a constructive way. Venus is into Scorpio a little bit more now, and she is the yod release point for a sextile between Uranus and Neptune, and she's still square Pluto. So there's all sorts of tension still happening between that tension. But now that Venus has got Uranus factored in too, that idea of personal pleasure and our sense of self that's invested in that which we find, sexy, this lack of other word in Scorpio, um, is kind of at odds with the versatility and the freedom of Gemini with Uranus there. So there's a sense of versatility, duality, whereas in Scorpio we have investment and others and values, so valuing in ourself even. Um, and then we have this pressure from Pluto, from the group or from others that are powerful, that are trying to, control or impress what our values are, how we relate. And then we are also trying to balance that sense of beautiful investment in others with a sense of selfless devotion to self and a selflessness of self. So all of those energies mixing up on Venus at the same time makes it indicate that our relationship should be kind of highlighted. Key figures, key themes with important others, significant others ought to be highlighting these themes of what we're invested in. What are we open to when it comes to new, unusual ideas, opinions, and radical viewpoints and perspectives? How are we investing in collaborative group far-ranging futuristic ideals with others in a way that is balanced and not imbalanced? And how are we being um, as altruistic and compassionate as a person for our identity and with our identity as much as possible? All of that together. It also Venus can also talk about money stuff, and so would not be surprised if some things with money were particularly highlighting during this time that Venus is so active in a lot of these aspects. Um, so yeah. And then Mars is still sextile the sun, powering us up with a sense of assertiveness, and it's starting to trine Neptune and oppose Pluto. Um, So there's a lot of selfless devotion and a lot of crusading charging forward that is favored when Mars and Neptune get together. We really flow well. We've got a lot of that compassion. We've got a lot of that um, selflessness in our spirit in the way that we are pushing forward, or at least we think we do. And then Mars opposite Pluto can make us a fierce competitor if others are trying to control us or turn things in a direction that we don't feel like is as compassionate or altruistic. It also can make us very powerful on behalf of causes where we are working with others, for others, especially some of those causes like that. Um, so again, there's a lot of our self nature that is working in selfless ways with and for others that's indicated here. It says that while we're also wrestling with who those others are, how we're working with them, and what our motives are, what our self-born motives and investments are, what missions we're working for, and who we're working with in that super highlighted. Just Venus and Mars are extremely active with a lot of our key planets during this season. And as this season ends, it looks like that will be taking place on September 22nd at 8:05 p.m. is when you can see the sun get to 29 degrees, 59 seconds of Virgo, the last bit. Um, Sun is at the end. It's still sextile Mars. So our sense of identity, we are feeling rather assertive, at least in who we are and getting things done and doing things. Um, it is opposite Neptune. So it's like, while we got a lot of action to do stuff, we may be starting to question now, who are we? And after all these interactions and the engagements I was describing with Mars and Venus prior, the engagements with others and self, that interplay is going to feed into who we are. So that sun nature is opposite Neptune, um, feeling more altruistic, more open, subtle, etc., but also more um, open again to ideas of who we are. It seems like the influences of others, as it starts to change into Libra season, will be highlighted and favored. So there are ways that we may find ourselves more uh, pressured and able and willing to bend from what others seem to want and need. And so so we've got a lot of energy for ourselves, but we're not going to mind as much plugging in ourselves on behalf of others and investing in others. Sun is also at this point of being in that trine I was trine with Pluto and Uranus. So just deep investment, collective openness, all of that is coagulating together over these next few years while Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are all playing together. When one planet plays with one, they play with them all. Um, Mercury is opposite Saturn still and starting to square Mars. So those ideas that we're getting, kind of put into practice or uh, made serious in some way, published, made more prominent, standing out in a serious, practical way, um, would also be sparking something new in the form of a debate, in the form of exciting new action. But our engagement of others with the Libra archetype in Mercury, the engagement of others with our thoughts and interactions, um, engaging with them about self is in some way sparking maybe them to act and sparking us to act. So there's something about the information and communications of Mercury that's getting a lot of firepower between a square, which is of the nature of Mars, squaring Mars. So something is debated, more argumentative, just more active. It could mean we have to communicate more often. There's more to talk about. We have to go more places or be more involved. All of that is a quality that's picking up the pace with Mercury and Mars involved. Um, Venus square to Pluto, we've been talking about that. It is still on, and Mars square is reactivating as Venus slows station. So we're going to see here Venus is slowing down and getting ready to go backwards. We're about to have a Venus retrograde. And so that's why Mars has been able to catch up so that have reignited that square. So the spiciness between us and our interactions with others, we just went into a mode of like maybe being a little bit more receptive or whatnot prior. And then now things are turning around. Venus is giving us the sense that she's about to go back. And there's something to redo. There's something to be redone. And so some of these things that we were hashing out, or maybe decisions that we made about other people, relationships that we were working through with those Venusian dynamics earlier in the cycle, those are getting ready to come around again. So some of those things that were spicy or confronting and challenging before, we might start to see again, as well as this elongated pressure from Pluto, the pressure to change or be controlled or control others, coming to us from, could be any sources, but it can also be about ideologies since it's Aquarius, or groups or organizations or friends. Um, but there's something that's like coming back around soon with our relationships and investments. So all those themes, everything we've been talking about with Venus, is coming around again and into her solar season, as the sun goes into Libra. We also see Mars near the end of Cancer. Mars is about to go into Leo, where he'll be much more happy. Um, and the opposition to Pluto is it's getting right on, and that is um, yeah, that's kind of the a battle of some sort. Mars and Pluto can often be something coming to a head that feels like a confrontation or a battle between wills. If it's not things coming together, it can be two people joining forces in a shared business venture, project, etc., um, culminating in some powerful way. So especially things that are bigger than one person's ego. When someone's ego is too pompous in this mix, it tends to look that way and burn out or explode or implode. So there's often some volatility with Mars and Pluto, but it can be very good for culminations of joint projects. But it can also be where someone else's way is opposite ours, and we have to battle someone to get our way or battle around someone to get our way. So that could be in this mix. And the final thing, Jupiter sextile Mercury and trine Saturn. Um, Mercury and Jupiter working together is just great for planning. It's great for the intellect. Those are two intellectually favorable planets that are moving and cruising around for information and learning and growing and traveling. And so that's circulating information and planning and looking ahead very well. And Jupiter is trine to Saturn, but still building things well in a long range sense. This whole time period with Jupiter and Saturn trine, that is a mid-speed trine. It's not as slow like uh, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are slow planets. That's going to be happening for a long time. Saturn and Jupiter are faster than them, but they're the next slowest. And the fact that they're talking, that's a nice middle kind of foundation of growth and harmony between expansion and contraction that's continuing to build favorably in fairly open ways. And so that is a highlight as this season is ending. So, with that, we've concluded our Virgo roundtable. I hope you found something interesting and new out about Virgo, the archetype itself, how it relates to all the other signs, and what we got going on this year in 2026. If there are any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I look forward to joining you guys in about a month, and we'll talk about Libra.